Hi, and welcome to the Bruce Channel. I'm Bruce, and wow. As expected, I've been doing some film work, and as suspected, kept us away for a couple of weeks. We're nearing our 2-year anniversary, and we have never missed 2 in a row, but I suppose records are meant to be broken, right? But, the time back here, it feels like, wow, you're turning your back for a moment, and someone's painted all of the walls a different color. There's been so many things that have happened. It's almost going to be a double show. And I'm leaving some things out and postponing some of them. And I don't even know where to begin. I need a game show spinner or a board game spinner or something. Anyway, first, I admit I should have got this onto our last show on Sunday, September 25th. I did get Vin Scully's impending retirement, and I missed this. I had seen the announcement, a month previous, near the end of August, but that's not acceptable, and the occasion cannot pass without mention. And here was the announcement.
Some of you may have heard rumors lately that I won't be hosting these Sunday morning broadcasts very much longer. Well, I'm here to tell you that the rumors are true. For years now, people, even friends and family, have been asking me why I keep doing this, considering my age. I am pushing 84. It's just that it's been such a joy doing it.
His last TV broadcast will be September 25th.
After which, you can still see me on the radio. The Osgood File continues.
So, Charles Osgood was actually an economist. He earned his BS in economics from Fordham University. But his mellifluous voice got him hired at a classical music station in Washington, D.C. He enlisted in the Army in 1954 with the hope of becoming the official announcer for the United States Army Band, and he did that. Later, when he was back in the radio business, broadcasting has ups and downs, and as he put it, he went from being the world's youngest station manager, then he got fired, and so he became the world's oldest cub reporter. He was quite a storyteller. By the way, he was born Charles Osgood Wood. That's the name he used for a long time, Charles Wood. But when he was hired at ABC, they had a reporter named Charles Woods. So he became Charles Osgood. I first became aware of him when he was doing the Osgood File on CBS Morning Radio, telling the stories. They were gripping, they were compelling. You could always hear the amusement or the kindly smile in his voice as he wove the story. And of course, once on TV, he became known for his bow tie. So, Mr. Osgood, my simple homage. Now, if you appreciate his work as much as I did, and would like to send a thank you for your work kind of message, I'm going to. The address would be Charles Osgood, 555 West 57th Street, New York, 10019, 2985. Oh, continuing the Osgood File on the radio? Thanks for that, Charlie. Do appreciate it. Okay, a quick weather tidbit. This really is just to dot the I. For weeks I've been saying that here where I live, we've been on the verge of doubling our normal expected number of 90-degree days. Normal is 28. On our last show, 3 weeks ago, I said we're at 55. That wasn't true. No, I didn't lie, but on the day before that show was published, but long after the editors had begun their work, that Saturday afternoon, top 90 degrees, so we did double. Of course, the big story is not the 90 degrees. The big story is the incredible damage caused by Hurricane Matthew. Living where I do, I usually keep at least a casual eye toward the coast of Africa, and I do recall the local guy mentioning there was a wave coming off the coast. And that was several days before our last show of 3 weeks ago. Of course, you know what happened. It was briefly a Cat 5. Haiti is now devastated again. Haiti is the poorest country in all of the Western Hemisphere. It still hasn't recovered from the earthquake that Pat Robertson blames on their making a pact with the devil. Personally, I think that's a shaky premise. But what is true is they were once again devastated. Understand, a lot of the people there live in shacks, tin shacks. And they still don't know how many were killed because a lot of the places, they haven't been to get to a lot of the places yet. It's hundreds, 500, 800, may go over 1,000. Whatever else happens. If nothing else befalls them, they will not get back to normal for years and years. It's been over a week and there's still immediate need. They've had a cholera epidemic ever since the 2010 earthquake, and this is going to make it worse. And Matthew put a big hurt on a lot of people: Cuba, the Bahamas, and the southeastern U.S., but the people of Haiti are the most vulnerable and least able to cope. Were you to consider making a donation, UNICEF is one of the best agencies because only about 10% goes to administrative costs. Just a thought. Matthew's damage was, and I don't want to say unprecedented, and it was pretty bad, but the way it did it was perhaps unprecedented. They're going to likely retire Matthew as a hurricane name, as they did Camille and Andrew and Katrina and others. But unlike those, big and powerful, and where they hit hard, this one was uncanny. It stayed just off the coast, up off Florida, then off Georgia, and finally making landfall in South Carolina, bringing lots of storm surge in, but continuing to follow along the coast. It was supposed to be least consequential here in North Carolina, but it stayed north just a bit longer. And the winds were strong, yeah, but it just rained and rained and rained and rained. As you'd expect, there was lots of flooding. It came to North Carolina last Saturday. But on Wednesday this past week, several days later, they were still issuing new evacuation orders because, the rain's got to go somewhere. It goes in the rivers, and then the rivers crest and overflow the banks. And the pictures and the video, these are from midweek, days after the storm. I was pretty fortunate being west of the really bad stuff. It rained here, but as it happens, I headed into the belly of the beast. On Saturday, we had to some film work in Raleigh. The weather was probably good for the film, that is the drama. That little girl is playing my granddaughter, and here you can see the filmmakers getting the shot from out in it. On the way to Raleigh, I probably saw at least 4 cars that had spun out, doubtless due to hydroplaning, and that evening, on the way home, I saw a couple more, but I also saw 3 convoys, roughly 10 trucks each, maybe 30 trucks and all, from power companies. Don't know from where they came, but they were heading south. Then midweek, another day of shooting in the Raleigh area, and we were slightly delayed because the location, there was a big tree down across the driveway, and it was still being sawed and moved. Ironically, on the way back from that shoot, I encountered another power truck convoy. This time they were heading north. All 4 states were hit hard. Florida's A1A highway along the East Coast is closed in a lot of places. In North Carolina, I-95, the main route from New York to Miami, that's going to take a lot of days to repair, maybe weeks, because North Carolina, expected to get the least consequence, actually fared the worst of all the states. Large areas remain underwater and will be yet for another couple of days, maybe until Tuesday or Wednesday, the 18th or 19th of October. At my deadline, 44 deaths have been blamed on Matthew in the U.S., 22 of them, exactly half in North Carolina. One other note about Matthew. Word came near the end of the week that tens of thousands, meaning at minimum 20,000, of livestock have been killed. I don't know what the distribution is, but North Carolina is the second largest pork producer, and a lot of that production is down in the south end east of the state, so don't be surprised if pork rises in price. Aghast. Merriam-Webster defines aghast as to be struck with terror, amazement, or horror, shock. But understand the context. I could be struck with amazement at how far Dustin Johnson can hit a golf ball. I'm not horrified by it. And while I'll try and keep these points brief, the events of the last weeks hardly allow for any other word but aghast. And I speak, of course, of the continued devolution, that's right, of our presidential election. There have been countless times in our history when the major candidates did and said things that angered the other side. And it has been said, politics ain't beanbag. But most of the time, the case could be fairly made that either nominee represented the best of that side's point of view. Wendell Willkie was the Republican nominee in 1940, and he lost to FDR, but FDR respected him and actually used him a couple of times as a foreign envoy. I understand that Hillary Clinton is hated. I'm not fully understanding as to why she's hated. I mean, I know there have been accusations of everything, including murder, literally murder, I don't put much stock in them. Anybody can make accusations, but were she and Bill actually guilty of murder or ordering murders? Come on, all these years, that would have been found out. Secrets can't be kept. Washington doesn't keep secrets. Somebody somewhere, some political opponent would have found it, proved it, and used it, and that would have been the end of that. There was a minor flap a couple of weeks ago. She said that some of Trump's supporters were a basket of deplorables. Well, that's, not nice, but some of them are not nice. Some of his supporters shout hateful, racist, vulgar, vitriol. I think basket is kind of a nice term for some people like that. Understand, I'm not saying that for those with opposing viewpoints or what policy should be. But the stuff some of them yell, remember the video, the sucker punch at one of his rallies, that kind of stuff? Basket is too nice a term. Chamber pot of deplorables is what I might have said. I've said this before, too. If the GOP had nominated someone with experience, someone who had a good service record, not even exemplary, just, a good service record, that candidate would have won in a walkover. The Republicans could have waltzed into the White House. Instead, the trumpet blows gibberish. It'll be great. Trust me. Really? When asked how he's going to make it great, he says, believe me, I know how. Yeah, I'm reminded. He's nothing but vitriol. He has no plans or policy, just insults. Actually, he's a schoolyard bully. Remember Biff Tannen from the Back to the Future movies? Yeah, Biff Tannen. Oh, remember Back to the Future Part 2? To paraphrase, if the suit fits, wear it, and from where I sit, the suit fits. In the debates, when asked anything, he becomes the teenager who didn't do his homework but finds endless excuses. In the second one, he lurched around like the bully he is, resembling Biff Bannon indeed. Oh, and the sniffing? More than one person has speculated possible co-cues. It's said that Donald Trump used to go to Studio 54, so now, I don't know, but I hear things. I believe Marco Rubio is right. He's a con man who, like another famous one, would, if elected, reveal that.
I don't know how it works.
Yeah, and regarding the vice presidential debate, I think Mike Pence did a good job, especially given that he had to defend the indefensible. But the real prize goes to the Republican National Committee. You see, they are really prescient. Their website proclaimed Pence the clear winner or the easy winner or whatever. But see, the thing is, that claim that Mike Pence was the clear winner, oops. Somebody posted it online about an hour before the debate began. Yeah, I know too that MSNBC leans left, but to do that, as they try to persuade, they present facts that argue their case, whereas Fox often makes things up. Yeah, I know, fair and balanced is their slogan, but oops again. Oops, because Sean Hannity pulled back the curtain. He got in a tiff with Fox colleague Megyn Kelly. He didn't like that she calls out the dumpster when he says dumb things, so he insulted her in the way he thought was the worst possible insult. He accused her of going to vote for Hillary. Yeah, that sounds really fair and balanced, doesn't it? Except in the Fox universe, the Democrats, whatever they do, whatever they say, which isn't always good, but it isn't always bad, but according to Fox, it is. So, sorry, Shawno, a real network wouldn't make voting for someone, and Kelly hasn't even said whom she's going to vote for, but that cannot be used as an accusation, as an insult, hurled with the same invective as, say, I don't believe it, you poured bleach in your dog's eyes, or you drowned your cat, you horrible person. Former President George H.W. Bush, number 41. Pretty successful Republican is voting for Hillary. I guess Hannity thinks he's a nut job too. Oh, and before the events of last weekend, which we'll touch on in a moment briefly, the headlines began being made and continue to be made when lots of hardcore Republican newspapers can no longer stand the stench oozing from the dumpster. The Arizona Republic, the Dallas Morning News, the Columbus Dispatch, and several others. Some of these haven't endorsed a Democrat in over 100 years, and some have never previously endorsed a Democrat. You know, I have said I wish there were a real choice of competing ideas, the operative word being ideas. There was one in 2012. And there just about was, though there was in 2008, but certainly John McCain was a viable alternative to Barack Obama, but his choice for beat, Sarah Palin, revealed herself to be totally and completely unprepared. Couldn't make her a heartbeat away. As the dumpster has self-revealed himself to be, and he reveals almost every day. He has now twice insulted John McCain, a man with more character dripping out of one of his toenail clippings than you could find coming out of dumpsters' eyes, ears, his wherever. Listen to what John McCain's 2008 campaign manager, lifelong Republican Steve Schmidt, had to say when Donald said recently, within the past week, that he wouldn't want to be in a foxhole with Senator McCain.
John McCain, who went through an unbearable ordeal, and everybody knows that John McCain is a hero, but they don't necessarily know why he is a hero. And the reason that he is a hero was because his father was the commander-in-chief of American forces in the Pacific. John McCain was Navy royalty. He was so badly injured, he was not expected to survive. He was offered early release by the Vietnamese, which would have given them a significant propaganda victory, and McCain said no. The Code of Conduct requires prisoners of war to be released in the order that they are captured. And what John McCain functionally did is, rather than dishonor himself, the Code of Conduct, the United States Navy, he made an affirmative decision to die in prison than to break that code. And when he said no, he was tortured and he was abused in ways that are beyond the imagination for the next 5.5 years. And now Donald Trump says he wouldn't want to be in the foxhole with a guy like John McCain. I think it's important to remember that Donald Trump said that for him, avoiding the clap when he was partying in Studio 54, that was his equivalent of Vietnam.
That is an honest man. It's too bad he doesn't run for office. He should. Listen to what he had to say about the Trump campaign's effect on the party.
What this exposes, though, is much deeper, and it goes to the Republican Party as an institution. This candidacy, the magnitude of its disgrace to the country is almost impossible, I think, to articulate. But it has exposed the intellectual rot in the Republican Party. It has exposed at a massive level the hypocrisy, the modern-day money changers in the temple like Jerry Falwell Jr., and so this party, to go forward and to represent a conservative vision for America, has great soul-searching to do. And what we've seen in the danger for all of these candidates is, over the course of the last year, these candidates who have repeatedly put their party ahead of their country, denying what is so obviously clear to anybody who's watching about his complete and total manifest unfitness for this office.
And there are Republicans who understand. Senator Lindsey Graham, from the time Trump sewed up the nomination, Graham said there comes a time when love of country has to supersede hate of Hillary Clinton. Several weeks ago, I gave credit to Ted Cruz, who at the convention aroused the ire of the delegates when he failed to endorse Donnie. And he seemed to stand by it, but only for a while. despite the fact that Trump trashed his wife, called him Lion Ted a bajillion times, and said Cruz's father had a role in JFK's assassination, Ted Cruz more recently endorsed him. Marco Rubio, he called Trump a con man and unfit to be president, but he's endorsed him. That's what Steve Schmidt spoke of, putting party ahead of country. To his credit, Ohio Governor John Kasich has not. He has stuck to his guns. And he's not a politician, but I will give credit to Glenn Beck. I've criticized him for always predicting doom and gloom for profit motive. I believe that. But just over a week ago, he allowed that he considered voting for Hillary. He has no use for Trump. So he more recently, here's what he said. Let me be clear. I am firmly against both Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton as potential presidents of the United States of America. I believe that neither candidate has the values, decency, or principles to be the leader of the free world. He goes on, if the consequences of standing against Trump and for principles is indeed the election of Hillary Clinton, so be it. At least it is a moral, ethical choice. Wow.
Hey, let me tell you about my book, Shrink. For most of my adult life, I weighed a little over 100 pounds. Not much more than in this picture taken when I was about 17 and considering becoming a jockey. But as is often true, once I crossed into my 40s, extra weight came and it stayed. For years I tried to lose, instead gained, and ended up 153 pounds. And I'm embarrassed to show you this video. Then I learned that it isn't about calories and exercise, but instead it's about what you eat. You might say, sure, ice cream makes you fat. But there were surprises, things like orange juice not being such a wise choice if you're trying to lose weight. So I just made some basic changes to what I ate, not how much, and the weight just fell off. Now, nearly 3 years later, it is still off. And don't misunderstand, I'm eating foods I like, not bamboo shoots. Friends ask me how I did it so often, I put it in a book. It's available as an ebook for all platforms, and the print edition is available at barnesandnoble.com and amazon.com. Hey, you can shrink too.
Welcome back. Remember, you can write to us at the Bruce Channel at yahoo.com, and you can watch all of our previous episodes at either our Facebook page or tinyurl.com/Bruce Channel. You know, credit to Beck for holding on to principle indeed, but some of these pundits out there are scary, and some of them are funny. Sometimes they're funny and scary. Remember Alex Jones? I'd never heard of him before, I don't know, June maybe? And I have found him both scary and more recently funny. Remember, he was loudly, ardently, and with insufferable certitude arguing that Hillary was falling down every half hour. She's going to withdraw. She's so sick. The Secret Service told him on the record that she was very ill. By the way, on the record doesn't mean anonymously, which is all we ever get from him. But here we are 2 debates later, and she's held up for the 90 minutes, you know. Not a cough, not even a sniff. But here's what I found funny. Just over a week ago, he started leaving out the health issue. I mean, he no longer mentions it at all. Instead, he began speaking more of the globalists being afraid of the Donald. And so he began giving advice to Donald Trump. It is funny, she's about to die, and then it's no longer an issue. Even funnier, listen, this is great. Listen to what he had to say after the first debate.
I really had to cogitate on the subject deeply. Overall, Trump won the debate just by sheer moral weight, gravitational weight. The whole thing obviously was rigged. In their attempt to rig everything, that's what blew up in their face, and why every poll out there, and we've got like 10 of them here, scientific polls, you name it, on Democratic Party platforms, you name it, liberal platforms, like Time Magazine, MSNBC, you name it, saying Donald Trump won massively.
Just a quick note on that. Would it be churlish of me to point out that he spoke of scientific polls, but really he was speaking of the instant polls, the one where you can click on it several times, Like if a Fox instant poll says, dump one, so what? That's what I'd expect. And I'd give no more credence to an instant poll from MSNBC. It's the ones that come out days later. Those are the scientific polls. That aside, now listen to this one. This was this past week, the day after the second presidential debate.
Trump clearly won the debate last night. I mean, undoubtedly, he completely dominated. I said that he didn't do well and pretty much lost the first debate. Because I'm honest. I mean, that's all I've got.
So, does this guy at all understand or remember what he said? Does he not know there are recording devices out in the world these days? And it's not new stuff, and we all know how to use them? All right. Finally, to show you just how clownish this man is, listen to this. You can listen to the whole thing. I'm just going to play a few seconds here. This is, you can find it. The date was March 1st, 2016, long before I ever heard of him.
Some things have happened, and I really was just thinking on it last night, this morning, and today, that have been happening with Donald Trump, and that's why I've decided I've got to come out against Trump 100%. And I'm sorry to all my listeners and everybody, some of which weren't for Trump, that I tried to convince you to be for him. I'm going to lay out a case right now of why you've got 100% opposing, okay? And I'm going to do that right now. I want to apologize, not just you, the viewers, but Rachel Maddow, people like Hillary Clinton, people like Obama, Vicente Fox, everybody. I'm just going to apologize to all of you. I'm going to say it right now.
So wait, what's that? He says Trump is a very bad man. He outlined some of the reasons, his use of Chinese workers and like that. I mean, what's truly shocking, he apologized to Rachel Maddow, whom he hates. Apparently he hated before, and I've heard him insult her subsequent to that recording. He has called her a lying witch. And he apologizes to Hillary, whom he has called not only a witch, but has said she is a demon, literally. So, I said the weeks have been busy. But we now have to address what Speaker Ryan called the elephant in the room. By the way, he didn't mean this elephant. This elephant is the cover of this week's The Economist magazine. That's their cover. But Ryan's elephant in the room is the recording that was revealed where Trump admitted to trying to f*** a married woman. He himself was married at the time, and the fact that being famous, being a star, meant he could get away with anything, that he could grab a woman by the He couldn't deny it, so he defended it as locker room talk. No, that is not locker room talk. Some of his defenders said, it's just boys will be boys. It's not boys will be boys. Boys will be boys is, so I'm playing in a band and 3 or 4 girls sit down at a table and I say to the bass player, whoa, check out the one in the yellow sweater. Yeah, we boys do that all the time. Absolutely. Or, on the roof at Northfield Park, as the announcer there for several years, I got binoculars. Jim, you got to come see this. That's what boys will be boys means. Or, knowing nothing about her except that my waitress has a killer smile, and yeah, that's part of her job, but that's okay. She's pretty, so I say to this waitress, you've got a great smile. I wonder, could I take you to dinner sometime? She says yes, she says no. Either way, I'm offering a compliment, albeit one that's pretty shallow, and accept the invitation or not, she likely take it as a compliment, albeit one that's pretty shallow. There are countless more examples I could make. Boys will be boys. We leer. Sometimes we make comments. Sometimes we shout things like, hey, baby! I don't think we do wolf whistles anymore. But if I put my hand on her, if I try to cop a feel, I've committed sexual assault. Whether or not I'm ever prosecuted, that is sexual assault. And Donald Trump admitted doing that. Now, it's true that one of the perks of fame and money and power is that fame and money and power attracts women. Elvis, the Beatles, John Kennedy, Henry Kissinger, for God's sake. Power, fame, wealth. Some women, not all, but some will be attracted to fame, power, and money. But only a man eternally stuck in an arrested development age of what, 15? Would think it is okay to uninvitedly open mouth kiss or grab her breasts or her or reach under her skirt, fit to occupy the White House? This man isn't fit to clean the restrooms in the White House. All right, in the last segment, we spoke of locker rooms. As mentioned, the last show was published on September 25th. And it turns out that date has locker room implications. On Sunday, September 25th, the world of golf lost its king. Not the best golfer ever, not the richest, not even the winningest, but the man who changed golf more than anyone else. Arnold Palmer died at the age of 87. In fact, only 2 weeks previous, on September 10th, there were lots and lots of postings and memes wishing him happy birthday. Over the course of 6 decades, he won 62 PGA titles. He wasn't a country clubber, he was everyman. His father was greenskeeper at the Latrobe Country Club in Latrobe, Pennsylvania. He learned the game from his dad. He was good enough to attend Wake Forest on a golf scholarship. And in fact, largely because of that, Wake Forest has an enduring legacy of good golfers. He served in the Coast Guard for 3 years, some of that time in my hometown of Cleveland. I remember watching Gary Player and Jack Nicklaus and Arnie play a round of golf together at the Firestone Country Club in Akron, Ohio. Now, Gary's a bit taller than I, but that isn't saying anything. He's a great player, but he doesn't have the height, he doesn't have the great length. He won a lot of tournaments, but that's because he could make the shots. He could putt. But it was fascinating to see the contrast in the way Jack and Arnie drove the ball, and both were long hitters. Jack's were immediately up high, immediately out there, and he'd play with a mild fade. Arnie's instead seemed to have the trajectory of a jet fighter taking off of a carrier deck. And he played a small draw. He was unfailingly fun to watch. He'd kibitz with the fans. That round I watched, my dad took my sister and my brother and I to watch them. They're golf royalty. My dad was the ultimate golf fan. This was a school day, but who cared? My brother was maybe in the first grade. He had his front teeth out. Arnie spotted him and said, "So what happened to your teeth?" I don't recall my brother's response, but I believe that encounter made him an Arnold Palmer fan for life. Oh, and the millions that golfers earn today, they can thank Arnie. Good players today earn millions in a single year. When Arnie achieved $1 million in earnings, it was after several years as a easy for me to say, successful player. He was the first to hit $1 million in winnings. After he retired, he and Jack and Gary would still make the ceremonial first tee drives to begin the Masters, part of that tournament's unique charm. But as demonstrated during a clip I played last spring, this year he was there, but he wasn't up to hitting them. And I think I even commented at the time that he looked so very frail. So now, at the big course in the sky, I think all of us who watched him might express the same sentiment. Hit him good, Ernie. Over the years, there have been any number of golf in heaven jokes. Jesus is playing St. Peter and whatever. Now they've got to force him. One more locker room to mention, and the news arrived the very same day as Arnie's passing, only much earlier in the day, on September 25th. On that show, I mentioned the end of baseball season was nigh, that Vin Scully would in a week be making his final call. And that has nothing to do with the Florida Marlins, who were hosting the Atlanta Braves on that Sunday, the 25th. The Marlins ace was Jose Fernandez. And in the wee hours of the morning, he and a couple of friends of his were killed in a boating accident. Big fast boat. And they were going fast, but beyond that, no one knows exactly why. But the boat hit a jetty. It was night, maybe that's why. At high speed, And I've been in a boat, you've been in a boat. It's not like a car, there aren't seat belts, so high speed, sudden stop. The Marlins canceled that game and announced that his jersey, number 15, would be retired. Everyone was shocked. Here's the thing. The Greensboro Grasshoppers are the Marlins' low-A affiliate. And as the stadium organist, I was fortunate to see him pitch a few times. But only a few, because it was very apparent this guy with the blazing fastball and the super curve and talent was going to move up quickly. He did. He was with us half a season. In 2013, he was the National League Rookie of the Year, and he was the Sporting News Rookie of the Year. More tragic, he was a terrific guy, nice to everyone. We can certainly mourn Arnold Palmer's passing, but at age 87, we cannot feel he was in any way cheated out of something life has to offer. But a young kid, a nice kid, with the whole world in front of him, gather ye rosebuds while ye may. Finally, one more baseball note. My Indians exceeded expectations. They swept the Red Sox in the best-of-5 American League Divisional Championships. They now face Toronto in the American League Championship Series, which is a best-of-7. At my deadline, in that series against Toronto, they're 1-up. I don't know how this will turn out, but for however long they're playing, including if they get to the World Series, they have home field advantage. So, do watch out. I heard that there may be an oozy rat in a sanitary zoo. Aside from that, go try. And may your upcoming week be the best one you've ever had.